The Grapes of Wrath is an American realist novel written by John Steinbeck and published in 1939. The book won the National Book Award and Pulitzer Prize for fiction. And it was cited prominently when Steinbeck was awarded the Nobel Prize in 1962. Set during the Great Depression, the novel focuses on the Joads, a poor family of tenant farmers driven from their Oklahoma home by drought, economic hardship, agricultural industry changes, and bank foreclosures forcing tenant farmers out of work. Due to their nearly hopeless situation, and in part because they are trapped in the Dust Bowl, the Joads set out for California. Along with thousands of other Okies, they seek jobs, land, dignity, and a future. Plot summary. The narrative begins just after Tom Joad is paroled from McAllister Prison, where he had been imprisoned after being convicted of homicide. On his return to his home near Sallisaw, Oklahoma, Tom meets former preacher Jim Casey, whom he remembers from his childhood, and the two travel together. When they arrive at Tom's childhood farm home, they find it deserted. Disconcerted and confused, Tom and Casey meet their old neighbor, Muley Graves, who tells them the family has gone to stay at Uncle John Joad's home nearby. Graves tells them that the banks have evicted all the farmers, but he refuses to leave the area. The next morning, Tom and Casey go to Uncle John's. Tom finds his family loading their remaining possessions into a Hudson Motor Car Company sedan converted to a truck. With their crops destroyed by the Dust Bowl, the family has defaulted on their bank loans, and their farm has been repossessed. Consequently, the Joads see no option but to seek work in California, described in handbills as fruitful and offering high pay. The Joads put everything they have into making the journey. Although leaving Oklahoma would violate his parole, Tom decides it is worth the risk, and invites Casey to join him and his family. Traveling west on Route 66, the Joad family find the road crowded with other migrants. In makeshift camps, they hear many stories from others, some returning from California. And the group worries about lessening prospects. The family dwindles as well. Grandpa dies along the road, and they bury him in a field. Grandma dies close to the California state line, and both Noah, the eldest Joad son, and Connie Rivers, the husband of the pregnant Joad daughter, Rose of Sharon, leave the family. Led by Ma, the remaining members realize they can only continue, as nothing is left for them in Oklahoma. Reaching California, they find the state oversupplied with labor, wages are low, and workers are exploited to the point of starvation. The big corporate farmers are in collusion and smaller farmers suffer from collapsing prices. Wheat Patch Camp, one of the clean, utility supply camps operated by the Resettlement Administration, a New Deal agency, offers better conditions but does not have enough resources to care for all the needy families. Nonetheless, as a federal facility, the camp protects the migrants from harassment by California deputies. In response to the exploitation, Casey becomes a labor organizer and tries to recruit for a labor union. The remaining Joads work as strikebreakers in a peach orchard, where Casey is involved in a strike that eventually turns violent. When Tom Joad witnesses Casey's fatal beating, he kills the attacker and flees as a fugitive. The Joads later leave the orchard for a cotton farm, where Tom is at risk of being arrested for the homicide. Tom bids his mother farewell and promises to work for the oppressed. Rose of Sharon's baby is stillborn. Ma Joad remains steadfast and forces the family through the bereavement. With rain, the Joad's dwelling is flooded and they move to higher ground. In the final chapter of the book, the family takes shelter from the flood in an old barn. Inside they find a young boy and his father, who is dying of starvation. Rose of Sharon takes pity on the man and offers him her breast milk to save him from starvation.
The Grapes of Wrath Questions and Answers. Why is The Grapes of Wrath a banned book? They called Steinbeck a communist. Business owners and landowners railed against the novel's promotion of labor unionization, fearful of the effect it would have on the workers under their employ. Let's look at some reasons John Steinbeck's The Grapes of Wrath was banned, challenged, and burned across the country. What is the meaning of the phrase grapes of wrath? The phrase grapes of wrath is a biblical allusion, or reference, to the book of Revelation, passage 14:19-20, which reads, "So the angel swung his sickle to the earth and gathered the clusters from the vine of the earth, and threw them into the great winepress of the wrath of God. Is Grapes of Wrath historically accurate? Historical accuracy in the Grapes of Wrath. When considering the historical accuracy of the Grapes of Wrath, keep in mind that Steinbeck wrote a novel based on tenant farmers, the Dust Bowl, and the Great Depression, not a documentary work on these subjects, hence, the story of the Jodes. Why did Steinbeck wrote the Grapes of Wrath? In a 1939 letter, John Steinbeck wrote that his goal for the Grapes of Wrath was to rip a reader's nerves to rags. Through the novel, Steinbeck wanted readers to experience the life of the Dust Bowl migrants with whom he had spent time. Why did John Steinbeck win the Nobel Prize? The Nobel Prize in Literature 1962 was awarded to John Steinbeck for his realistic and imaginative writings, combining as they do sympathetic humor and keen social perception. Why did the Grapes of Wrath win the Pulitzer Prize? On this day in 1940, John Steinbeck is awarded the Pulitzer Prize for his novel The Grapes of Wrath. The book traces the fictional Jode family of Oklahoma as they lose their family farm and move to California in search of a better life. They encounter only more difficulties and a downward slide into poverty. Thank you.